Alright folks, welcome back. As I said before, we're going to start on the lower, but one of the things I have noticed when I was trying to do the lower was that many of your buffer tubes, and I'm going to pull it up here just a second here because I got it. Whoops. Come on, baby. There we go. I got my buffer tube over here in my handy dandy 6-way vise. I'm going to zoom her on up here a little more. There we go. And you take a good look, you'll notice there's no notch here. Most of your buffer tubes have a little notch right there, so that when you put your buffer tube, your buffer retainer pin, which is, that's what this is your buffer retainer pin, which holds this buffer, spring in here, barrel like that, it holds this pin, comes up and holds this buffer in place like so, right here. Well, guess what? It's really supposed to lock into this little hole right here and hold. Ain't gonna did it that way. So, what I've decided to do is be a little smart aleck and oh, come on. Well, I tightened it up too tight, didn't I? There we go. But it's really a pretty new vise. It's still really tight. I'm trying to turn it this way a little bit to get a better angle at the camera here. But tighten the tube up a little bit. Don't want to tighten it up too much in that vise to squeeze that tube. So I just got it in here with this rag, just barely tight enough where I can put my file on it. I've got a precision round file here. And what I'm going to do, get this dumb cord behind my back here, is lightly take it and line it up right there with that slot and start cutting it right along that slot. Now you don't want to go too far with this. Let me hold that in place there with my hand so it don't wobble double. You just want to cut. See, now I've got just enough. I'm starting to cut just enough. But you want to cut just enough to where it's just about the width of the neck on this thing right here. This neck right here. There's a little neck on it. You can see it. And you want that slot where this thing goes right in that slot, which is pretty much almost the depth of this cut right here. You'll see when I'm done. And it'll also keep you don't want this going out too far past here. You don't want to screw that out too far past this ring right here, because there's where your hole is right there. This is where your pin goes. And you can see the pin comes right up on that first, comes right up on this first, or the last, I guess you'd call it, in the case of going inwards, your last thread. You'll see that pin goes right there. There she goes. I don't have my spring in there, but that's where she goes, in that hole. You don't want that to go much past that, because if it goes past this part here, if this buffer tube sticks out beyond this right here, guess what happens? You can't open the gun. You're hung up. So that buffer needs to be as far back there as possible, and you don't want the buffer tube sticking out past this part right here, because it will hang the gun up. When you go to open the gun, the upper will hang on it. How do I know that, you ask? Guess. And that's why you test everything when you first put them together and make sure that it all works Statico. So here we're going to just keep on cutting here. Put my hand back on there, hold it, keep on cutting till I have a good little groove in there, like what I need. And she's almost there now. I'm going to stick my pen in here and just see what it looks like. And you can see that's about what it should look like. It's going the other way from here. It's the opposite direction. But that ain't far from the distance what you need right there. It ain't much more than that, trust me. I'm going to just make sure I got it good and centered here. Because this will also kind of tend to center this piece here too. You know, this will center this. Now you can undo the you know, once you get it centered in there. But this kind of centers it now. It'll center it on this pin now. So that when the pin comes up there, she locks right into that spot right there. I want to put just a little more on it to one side here. Get it a little more even. But that's about what you want right there. You need to have a little notch in it. Not much, just enough to where this, you know, don't get too crazy, but enough to where that pin will lock in there, and you'll see in just a minute when I slide this puppy in there what I'm talking about. Let's undo it from the vise now. We've got that done. Tube still nice and round. Had to squish it. Good deal. Good deal. Put our rifle barrel back up in there in our vise. Point it the other way so we don't get stuck in the head with it. Pull your bench over so you don't have anything left on it. Zoom back out. Bingo. Here we go. We're back to the bench. Okay. Now, here we go. As I said, I think I said it before, there's a bunch of things that kind of all happen at once when you start putting this thing together. When it comes to the springs and pins, which this gun has a few springs and pins, believe me. And when you're putting on certain things have to happen in a certain order, especially if you're doing it like me, this customizing stuff. Yeah, things have to happen a certain way. Because, like for instance, and I'll just give you a quick example. One of the first things we're going to do actually is put the trigger group in. Can you believe that? But, before that even gets started, I want to start and put on the takedown pin, because that is one of the easiest things to do that doesn't have any effect, and you've got to have it in there anyway. So, there's a special tool that I use to put this takedown pin on, which goes this way, like so. There's your takedown pin. Now the takedown pin is held in place by a detent and a spring, which is right there. Now, if you have any idea what it's like to try to put that spring with that little detent pin in, and I'm going to show you what the detent pin looks like. Get ready for a big shockaroo. Now make dang sure I put this over the bench, because if you lose this puppy, you drop this on the floor. Come on. You see, it wouldn't drop out of that bag because I want it to, but if I didn't want it to, it would hit the floor. Believe me, it will. So what I'm going to do is just dump them all out so I get what I want here. This Where'd it go? See how little they are? That is the detent spring. I mean, the detent pin. This, over here somewhere, is the spring. And here they are here. There's two of them. He's got the original detent spring out of here. Thank you. He saved it, but one of them he lost. But that's why I keep a lot of these. I keep a lot of these detent springs, pins on supply just for this reason. Because if you drop one of those, oh man, good luck going looking for it. Anyway, here's your springs. These are your two detent pins. One is for your takedown pin. The other is for your fire control pin. I mean, no. One's for your takedown and one's for your pivot pin. Let me get this straight. Pivot pin. Takedown pin. Pivot pin. Spring. These pieces all go in kind of sort of. Now these go in when you put on your bumper tube and your end plate. Like so. Your bumper plate's got a little tab on it where it locks into this groove on your bumper tube. And you spin this baby on up in there. You have your pin already ready and your thing ready and your takedown pin, because these are what keep them captive in the lower. You lose these, the pins will fall out and you're done. You don't have any way to hold your gun together. These are critical parts. Critical parts. These fail, you have no gun. You have no AR. So, you have two pieces. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to pull out our little special tool here. If I can get my hands on it real quick. There it is. This is from a company called Real Avid. I've seen other examples of pins in for pivot pin installation, the spring detent spring installation, and this is by far the best I've seen yet. Now, get this over here a little more, and up a little more. God Lord. Anyhow, what you do is you put this device on here like so. It has this piece here. It goes in, it's got a little slot right here that it goes into. It goes in one way. And you'll see how this operates here in just a second. Anyway, it goes in here like so. Put this down like this. Okay? That's where you preload your spring. Like so. Put your pin in there like so. Then this plunger pushes them all the way in there. Like that. Okay? Now, one of the things you have to do, and make sure you do it rightly, is you have to preload this pin in here. Okay? So you get it in here like this. Pop her in there like in place like that. You're going to turn it up like so, where this slot is facing up, because you see what's fixing to happen, right? When I push this plunger in here, I've got my detent pin ready. I'm going to rotate this over like so, and I'm going to push the pin in, if it'll go. When I pull this piece out, I'm going to pull this plunger out, it's going to let me go. See that? That just installed, you see how easy that was? That just installed the takedown pin. Almost. See? Take this out. She's in there. There you go. Wow. It's a little stiff at first when you first put it in there, but there's your takedown pin. She's installed now. Okay. And as I always say, a little CLP will help you do this a lot easier, which I didn't do. I should have put some CLP in the groove, but I'll just stick a little bit in here right now. Put a drop or two in there. And our takedown pin. Ooh, she's really stiff. She's really stiff when she's new. Come on. There we go. Yeah, they're really stiff when you first put them in there. You have to kind of wear them in a little bit. They'll get loosened up after a while. There we go. Now she's popping. But yeah, there's your takedown pin, or pivot pin, installed with the special tool from Real Abbott. Now you saw how, I hope everybody saw how real easy that was. I thought it was the easiest thing I've ever seen. Now, one of the things that you have to do to this gun, like I said before you do one thing before you do the other, is there's some devices over here on this side. This is the operational side of your AR-15. Here's your extended mag release, bolt release, catch release device, which goes right in here like that. As you can see, this is extended. I also have an extended, kind of sort of, magazine catch release, but it will not clear this because on the real AR they've got a little tiny knob thing here. It's just a little bitty stub that sticks down, and it doesn't stick out like this one does. It sticks straight down. Okay, so this was an extended bolt catch release from Battle Arm Development, which is really awesome. So what you got to do is you got to go ahead and stick this piece in first before you can go here. All right. Now we're just going to kind of work to the back here. That's what we're going to do. We started with the pivot pin. Now we're going to come in here and we're going to stick in our magazine release. Stick your tool, your lever in like so. Ta-da! There's a big old spring over here. Like I said before, if you order a spring set, make sure it has the magazine release spring in it. Because if it does not, you're going to have to order them separate, which I ordered 10 of them. So anyway, once you do that, you've got that set up. This is your button. It's just basically a threaded piece of metal with serrations on the end of it. I thought about using the extended mag release from Armaspec, but I just don't know. I couldn't find one in the gold color for one thing, and I didn't want to go through the problem with the issue of Cerakote and that. Just too much Cerakote gets after a while. So anyway, I'm going to push it on here, and when you do so, you're going to push that lever out at the same time because it's not threaded all the way in. And it threads just like a screwdriver, starts threading in. Now, what I suggest to do is kind of get your thumb set up like so, or your finger if you got a strong finger, and get it in there, because you got to push that spring in there. You're pushing against that spring, nothing else. And get that puppy down in there on your thumb, and get it started. And this particular thing has a lot of, you see I caught a couple of threads right there. And that's really what you want to do. So, what I'm going to do now, we'll take like the end, fill a screwdriver in, which won't scratch it up or anything, and push on that thing as hard as it'll go, and start screwing it in the rest of the way. Let me put it down here on the bench. It's almost there actually. Because when it's up at the right level, that's this thing's right at even with the button here. Let me see if I can push it in there enough to do it with it. Just my thumb. Got the end of my thumb on it now. So you could probably go, I probably could go one more turn on it. Probably. Maybe. I don't think I'm going to be able to. No, it ain't going to go one more turn. Okay, you've got your magazine button in there. It's really cool to have it a little long. It doesn't matter. But there's your magazine release button. And in order to try it, handy dandy magazine, metal. The old school metal. Best way to try it. If it works with this, it'll work with anything. Trust me. Put your old school metal magazine there. Bang! There she is. Locked in. Hit your button. Boop. See? Drop right out. In there. Drop right out. Okay. Magazine release lever and button and spring installed. And that's where she goes in, right like that. And you can see how much more metal is on this lower than there are on your average AR-15 lower. It is tremendous amount of metal. Oh Lord, I scratched it up a little bit there. I have to buff that out. Anyway, yeah, you got to be careful with the scratching. The Cerakote will scratch, believe it or not. Even though it's a really cool coating, it will scratch up. Trust me, anybody thinks it won't, well, you're nuts. But it is a cool coating. It really is. It's just really awesome what it does. It will rub off. You can sand it off. You can sandblast it off. But it's a tough coating. It really is tough. And it's pretty durable. It'll stand up to a lot of gunk, to a lot of silliness, believe it or not. It's good protection. And it looks cool too. You can get all kinds of different colors, combinations. This thing guy does one in a orange. He did one of my nephew's guns in an orange tiger stripe. It's 300 blackout. He did an orange tiger stripe. Really cool looking. How long that lasts, I don't know, but the gun looks like awesome. I mean, just sitting there, awesome looking. Anyway, let's get back to what we're doing. Now, the next thing that we're going to try to install, and this is the most aggravating part of putting, to me, notice I said to me, the most aggravating part of putting together an AR-15 is what we're fixing to do next, right after this break. Okay, sorry for that pause, but we had a little education there about, again, you learn all the time. I left that in the other side of the receiver, you know, just kind of testing it. This is the bumper for your catch release, which is, I'm going to install all of that. I thought I needed them. My other ones is installed with a roll pin. The catch release does. Not on this one. These boys are up on snuff. They use the same thing that you use to hold in the forward release. This is what they use. They use these screw-in pins instead. The roll pins. My other Crusader that I have, this is not the rare breed. They have, Spikes Tactical has a regular Crusader, which I have. Then they have the rare breed Crusader, just plain, and then they have the rare breed Crusader, which is painted, I guess you'd call it, kind of a painted. It looks like Cerakote, but it's some kind of special coating that they use. And it's the same gun. If you look up Donald Trump Jr.'s AR, you'll see what I'm talking about. He has one. He has the I forget what it is, the rare breed Crusader, something that has another designation. But Spikes Tactical Rare Breed makes several different different types of fancy like this. They have one that's called the Spartan. God, I can't remember what they all are. But Spikes makes a whole bunch of cool lowers. You know, they have the Gadsden lower, Don't Tread on Me, which I made one of those. They have a Buccaneer, I made one of those. You know, it's just cool, you know. And Palmetto State Armory does the same thing. They have custom lowers that they make. You know, special things. They've got the Tyranny 15 coming out, which is soon coming out. I've got it on order. Already paid for it. It's on its way. They got like some kind of long lead on it. But this is, like I said, the rare breed Crusader from Spike's Tactical. It's kind of like they tuned up together and said, okay, you build us a special type of Crusader and we'll put our label on it and sell it. Well, here's the lower. Upper's already up here on the box. You've seen that earlier. So what I'm going to do now is I've already, we put in the magazine release. We've got her in. So why don't we go now to, without, you know, like I said, we're going to go to the back. We'll go now to the, go ahead and push our pivot pin in. We'll now go back to, wait, I wanted to do something before I did that. The old CLP. That's what I was going to do, and I lost this little bumper here. Because we're fixing to use that. And, you know, the spring stayed in, thank God. Because here they are. Look how tiny that is. All these little pieces. You got to keep it, you know, that's why I have it on a white cloth. Man, you got to, you know, wow, you know, you just lose them so quickly. You know, and this massive stuff that you do with. Some people say, well, you got them laid out all over the place. Well, I got them laid out right here where I can put my hands on them and go to work on them. If anybody's wondering what that is, this little spear point right here, this puppy right there, that little spear point, you're fixing to find out what that is. Just watch. And if you're a gun builder and you don't have a couple of these, you're going to see why I have this in just a second. Anyway, we're going to put on now the bolt catch release from Battle Arms Development. This is their extended bolt catch release. It has been gold Cerakoted, again by my friend Angel Padilla out in Sheridan, Texas. He's also a custom gun builder, master gun builder. He builds lots of ARs. Anyway, well, how this works is there's this little tiny spring right here. This thing's got a lot of these little tiny springs. This little spring right here goes in that little hole right there. And just to give you a close up here, that's what this camera's for, boy. Zoom on up in there and get a look-see. Put the old Trump handle over here. Just move the camera up a little bit. Whoops. There we go. A little jerky. There it is. There's your hole. Right there. But this little tiny spring goes in. Like so. And this little bumper that pushes your lever, your catch release out and keeps it out until it locks. This is what rides up against the back of this lever here. Right there. Rides against that right there. Rides here. So what you're going to do is you can put that down in there. And then you just take your badass, your Battle Arms Development bolt catch release and just kind of drop her on in there, hold her in place. Take your pin, like so, because this is where they made a huge difference here, is changing this over to this pin. Because you had to fight this before you had to go to war with this thing to get this pin in here. With a roll pin. You had to press it down, you had to drive the roll pin in here first. Let's see if I can get, there we go. There she's seated right there. Now she's seated. little tiny Allen wrench. I don't even know if I have one this small on my big tools. I wonder if I do. No, that might be it right there. That's too big. Let's see, it may be, is that one there? No, that's a star point. Might be that one right there. That's getting pretty close right there. Oh, there it is. That makes it a whole lot easier. And you got one of these little bits the right size you need. So we just screw that on in here. Instead of driving that in with a punch, with a roll pin punch, and pounding that pin in there like you have to do normally, which I have had to do, it is a tedious affair. I have come up with a way to do it in such a way that it's going to make it easier. But you have to tape off the gun, get everything set up. Oh. When I build my next one, it's going to have, I'm sure, I have to put roll pins in that one. You'll get to see that. But with this little tool of mine right here, I can just kind of roll this thing up like so. It shouldn't take a whole lot of tight. That should be good enough right there. And there's your bolt catch release installed. Now what Rare Breed did was, instead of the roll pin, they put this little threaded bolt in here, just like they have, just like it's inside your forward assist. That's this piece right here. When Angel took the gun apart, this is what came out of it, because it had the forward assist installed on it already. And that's the pin that came out of it. The same one they used on your bolt catch release. Pretty cool, huh? Okay. The next thing we're going to move on to is our ATC Gold Super Slick High Reset trigger group. To put this trigger group in, you have to cock it like so. Won't work anyway. Anyhow, now you're going to get to see why I have the little spear points. I use anti-walk pins on all my drop-in triggers. Now this particular drop-in trigger came with a set of pins to work specifically with it, just regular pins. They're different. They're different from your regular AR pins. It came with them. I'm not going to use them. I will not use them. I'm going to use Armaspec stainless steel anti-walk pins for tactical advantage. Ain't kidding. And here they are. Basically, what all it is, comes with two little wrenches, like so. Comes with two little Allen wrenches, which is basically the same size, probably, as that little head I just had out, and it is. What size is that? That's a 1/16 Allen wrench. The screws on here are 440, which I suspect these are 440 also, what they call 440, 4-40 threads. It's a machine thread size. People go, what the hell's a 440? Well, if you worked in small electronics like I did, or any small gun parts, you'd know what a 4-40 is. Because, buddy, there's a lot of them in my world. Anyway, because they're very small screws and machine thread. This one has Allen, 16th Allen head on it, 1/16. This is the stainless steel body. I don't know if the screws are stainless steel. It doesn't matter. But anyway, what I do is, let's zoom out here again. We really got in close on that, didn't we? Okay. What that little spear point is, if anybody's thinking ahead, you'll know what it's for in just a second. We take one of the screws out. Take our spear point, replace where the screw goes, roll that puppy in. Now we're ready to line up the holes for the trigger. And you kind of sight the hole in by sight. Take your little spear point. Wiggle it on through. Now this thing has little springs on it where normally the clips are lying, and that's what's holding it up right now. So if I just kind of push and twist a little more, it'll go on past it. It's tight. Trust me. Getting that. So of course, there's some Cerakote in here too. So what I'm going to do is get my handy helper, my handy tapper here. Everybody needs a good rubber coated hammer. Just barely tap. There you go. See? We're just barely tapping her on in there, just giving her a little help. There we go. No real pounding. Now you just take your little spear point, like so. You unscrew it. Take your 440 screw with the 1/16 hex head on it. Slip it on up here. Roll it on up. Now some people like to use thread locker on these. I don't particularly care to, because these pins just roll around. They don't have any torque on them. And you'll see what I'm talking about in just a second, and I'll give you a demonstration. But let's go ahead and put this on here. Take our next spear point. This time we're going to come in from the opposite direction, just to be contrary. Get your hole lined up. You can see, look, there, see, watch. Woo-hoo. See the paper behind it? There it is, holes lined up. Put her like so. This one's going to go right on in easy. Well, I say that. Nope. That last little spring clip's going to hold me back. So we just kind of tap it easy on in there. And there we go. Take our spear point off. Whoops, come back here, baby. Don't you go down on that floor. You got to keep these things away from that floor now. Like I said, dropping stuff on the floor in this world, no, you don't do that. No. Not unless you got lots of them and you can just afford to buy more of them. But anyway, using something like that instead of an Allen wrench, if you have the right tools, using these little bits that I have a whole bit set. They're all different sizes. And I suggest everybody that if you're going to do this kind of work, you get one of these little bit sets with a little, you know, with a screw gun or something like that. Because using these little wrenches, dude, come on, really? Be here all day. But they're good for doing this in demonstration I'm fixing to do. And for backing up or tightening. Because what these do is they tighten on themselves, not on the case of the gun. Supposedly. Now this rare breed has a thicker thing on it. That may not be true, and I don't think it is. Oh, yeah, it's right. It's thicker. So I may have to Loctite these. Maybe the reason why they use those special pins instead. But normally these pins will walk around free, spin around free, but not in this case. Because it's got a thicker thing here. See, the case on this is thicker. It's got there's a lot of metal here. A lot more metal than a normal AR. This right in here where it's cut away, that's really the normal thickness. This is the actual thickness of the AR, the outside where they cut it down to get this relief. So normally these pins would just spin, they lock on themselves. They spin free. If I pull up one of my other ARs, I can demonstrate it. But yeah, they'll spin free. So I may have to go to Loctite on these. I still like using those anti-walk pins. I don't care what they say. But now, the ATC Gold high reset flat target trigger is installed. Isn't that cool looking? I mean, it just looks like it goes with that gun. I hate to say it, but it just does. And the trigger pull on this thing is like, it's got a little bit of take up, slight take up on it. I don't really like take up like this, but it's non-adjustable on this particular trigger, so I guess it's a safety thing. But you just pull on that baby just a little bit. Whoa, there she goes. See, I didn't even catch it. It slammed against it. Bad me. But yeah, that's the trigger in this thing. It is very, very, oh, wow. Except for the take up, I would compare that very closely to a, how should I say, the Remington 700 trigger, if anybody shot one of those. But anyway, so, but some of you have been paying attention noticed I didn't put the fire control in there. And guess what? You can't stick the fire control in there if that sucker's in there already, if it's already bolted down. Just another little example of how you get ahead of yourself. I do this on kind of sort of on purpose. So, you know, y'all see how the mistakes you make. You know, I know a lot of people on the internet that do this. You know, I watched them, some of the sewing videos that I've watched some of the dirt guys. You know, they'll sometimes do this stuff intentionally wrong just to show you how you make a mistake and how, you know, not to do things in the future. So in this, you know, in these kind of videos, yeah, it does help to show where you kind of like got ahead of yourself. Let's put it that way. I wouldn't call it making a mistake. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push that back out again, because all we have to do is loosen the back one. Give enough room to clear the safety selector, because there's a little arm that sticks out in the back of it and it rides on that groove right there. See that groove? Now in the full auto selector it looks a little different. There's various grooves in it if you have a full auto sear in it, or trigger groove, whatever. They can be got. You can get one. I don't particularly care for them. Waste ammunition. Anyway, let's go ahead and take our little thing here and see if we can shove her on out. All we have to do is just get it out enough to where the trigger's floppy in there, which is just like that. Now, you can see the trigger drop down. See that hole right there? Now when the trigger's in place, see that sticking up? You can't put her in there. Well, just to drop down that little bit now, I can go ahead and stick in the fire control lever, which I should have had in there first actually. Just let it flop around, because it really doesn't, you know, do anything until you put all the pieces together, like I'm fixing to do right now. So we put our little spear point back on, our anti-walk pin. I guess I should show you the other pins, but I don't know. Anyhow, we put our fire control lever over here. I think you have to have it. I think you have to have it in fire. Yeah, you gotta have it in the firing position, so you can pull that lever up there, and then you can stick her in there like that. Whoops! Hit the camera. Don't do that. Friendly tapper. Make sure you don't stick yourself in the finger on the other side. Dry, because it will go into your hand. I mean, that's a spear point. It will go right into your finger. It's not really deadly sharp, but it hit it hard enough, it would definitely puncture your finger. Trust me. So don't make that mistake. Anyway, we're gonna put the little screw back in. Our 1/16 4-40 hex head screw. And I'm just going to whip her up tight right now for this, just hand tight, and I'll Loctite her down later. A little burr on there for some reason. How'd that get on there? Anyway, there's your ATC trigger installed with the firing control selector. As anybody knows, you cannot put an AR-15 on safe with it in the fire mode with the hammers up. You have to cock it before she'll go into safe. Strange but true. Anyhow, there she is. She's now in the safe mode. Pull on it. Will not fire. Rotate her around here in a full auto. Will not fire. Look at that. Won't fire in that full auto mode. Because you know why? Because it's not a full auto firing selector. If I put the full auto firing selector in there, it would fire in the full auto mode, but it wouldn't be full auto, it'd just be semi. But if you put the full auto selector in here, it will still shoot. But not with the semi-automatic firing selector. So if you run across a full auto like this, because this has a full auto position on it. A lot of Spike's tactical stuff have the full auto positions on it. And you have to get an auto sear, which you can get. You can get a licensed auto sear. Go get a licensed auto sear and all the other parts you need to make this full auto. And you'll have full auto, or as the case may be, burst, if you want to go that route. You can pretty much do anything you want now with an AR-15. It's just you got the money and the time. You can do a lot of cool stuff with them. But anyway, let's get back to the subject. Now we go to the firing mode. We'll move her over to fire, and there she goes. She'll fire. So let's finish out our the next part that we need. Is we need some way to hold this firing selector in place. You know, like, really, man, this needs to stay in place here. Okay? So, to do that, there is a detent that goes on the firing selector, and it goes in this hole right there. Right there. There goes the detent pin, that's what it's called. And if you kind of rotate it around there, you can see the detent pin moving up and down. Let's move it here. Kind of can see it maybe. You'll know that you're right on it when you see, there we go. When you see it moving up and down, wiggling, you know you're just in the right spot. Okay, and then, what holds that in is the actual handle, or pistol grip. And the spring for that is this spring right here. And it is a different spring. It's one of the small long ones, but it's different from a detent spring, which is a little smaller, about the same length, practically are the same length within a millimeter, but they are different size. The detent spring is probably about, oh, I would say 2 millimeter, and this is about maybe 3, 3.5, something like that, if you're in the metric world. It's tiny. That spring goes in the handle or the pistol grip. And then, this is the trick, you carefully slide the handle and the pistol grip on in such a way that the spring doesn't fall out and neither does the detent pin. Now this is really tight. I've had it on in here in the office, you can see the Cerakote, but that Cerakoting on there really makes it tight. But it just basically goes up like that. Okay? And then you have, get the tool for this. I had it out here, so why do I have that one on there? That's not the one I want. I don't think. Let's see if I got the right tool. I thought I had the right tool out earlier. The right bit head. Let's put it that way. Maybe it's that one. Nope. Let's see. I know I got one here somewhere that'll work. Nope. I thought I had this out already when I was setting up here for this part of the job. I guess I don't. Okay, just hang on here. Nope. Come on, where are you? I know you're in here somewhere. One of you. Well, I know it exists because I had it out earlier. I think there it is, right there. There, I found it. Fell down in a hole in this tool thing here. It's got a lot of slots in it. Okay. Nope, that's too big. Wow. I thought I found it. No, not that one. That's a star bit. Oh, there she is. It's a recessed hex head. I don't know if anybody's seen these. Are called security hex heads. We see a lot of places where they've got like screws they don't want people to undo. And they'll have these type. You'll see these on like Coke machines, for instance. If they have any external screws, they'll have this kind of hex head on them, where you have to have a little recess in the hex head to take that screw off. Because you try to use a regular hex screw, it won't work. So that's what they're called. They're called security screws. But anyway, they'll work on a regular thing too. Obviously. Things are tough to get out. The sucker really wants to hold on to it. That is a, what size is this? Is that the 3/16? Yeah, it says 3/16. That's what that is. It's 3/16 hex head. That's what size. This is the standard AR-15 pistol grip bolt. You'll see some people with flat tip screws. I have it. In fact, I ran a safety wire screw in mine for a long time. Air Force. I had a bunch of screws from the Air Force when I was in the Air Force. There's safety wire. If you've ever seen a safety wire screw, they got holes drilled in the head when you safety wire them for jet engines and stuff, and aircraft's critical stuff. Anyway, it's called safety wire. And I had one of those on my old, what do you call it? My Bushmaster, which is now called Silent Night. So we'll just go ahead and screw this baby on up in here. Some people want to put Loctite on this, but I got a star washer on this thing. I guarantee you, you will not bust that sucker loose. Let's get my handy dandy ancient Milwaukee screw gun out. Now, I don't know how many of y'all seen one of them. Check that out. Bends into a pistol grip. Great tool. Awesome. Had it for over 35 years. Has a clutch on it, as you just saw. I'm going to tighten her a little bit. I don't want to get too torquey with this thing because this old gun is old. I believe that's tight enough. I'll guarantee you that'll come off. Never. Earthquake or not. Because once you compress down on one of those star washers and get it compressed down on it, she ain't backing off without some considerable force. Now, there, we're on our way to having our lower finished. Okay? Make sure I got this thing in here good. There she is. There's the selector. See, it will not go back to full auto now. Did I put that D10 in there? Because the D10 stops it from rotating back now. That's why you'd have to have a full auto firing selector to go into that full auto position. Because even the D10 will stop you from going any further. So all you have is no bullet, one bullet, and that's it. Okay? That means no fire, fire, and multi-fire. So, push this back up here. Okay, now, zoom on back out here. Okay, that's enough. Alright, and here you go. We're going to do the next part here. Is we're going to have, as I said before, some of these things have to go together at the same time. Kind of, sort of. And one of those is, like I said, the rear takedown pin detent, which goes, well, how does it go? Uh-oh. We got something different here. Oh, I didn't see that. They've changed it up here too. Okay. They've made it to where the handle goes on at the same time. I didn't even notice this. I was like sitting there looking at this thing. And here we go. Learning again. Get the old tool back out. Oh boy. Normally, if I had an AR lower, strip lower here, I would show you. But normally, your detent, your takedown pin, detent pin, the detent pin for the takedown pin, and its spring goes through a little hole back here. Rare Breed has changed all that, along with, like I said, the bolt catch release. Thank you, Rare Breed. You guys are just kicking me with this innovation here you guys are doing, because this is cool as hell. I guarantee you. If I had known this in advance, you saved me a whole bunch of trouble by doing it this way. Making it all at once. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I had no idea. I hadn't even read up on these things. I just saw them and thought they were so cool. I said, hey, give me one. I don't care. Pop that loose. See how puppy smooth as silk out of there. Okay, now let's see if we're loose here all the way. Let's not be. That's all, a little bit more to go. Oh, there she is. Could come with a screw, come out with it because it's magnetic like a bad dog, mad dog. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put this over here like this for now, carefully. And if I look over here, I should see another hole next to, and there it is. Woo, see that little hole right there? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I should have seen that to begin with. So we're just going to pull this back carefully and see if we can get that little pin in here. Now this is what's going to go on here. This little baby right here, that little jewel, is going to go. Let me get my pliers here on this puppy so we don't lose it. I'll zoom in here on it so y'all see this. This is great. I couldn't believe it because, like I said, stop it. Get over here like this. Like I said, normally the detent for the takedown pin, this one right here, goes through the back and it's held on with the end plate. And you have to screw the end plate up, you know, the buffer tube up with the end plate on, and then kind of jiggle that spring in there with the, make sure the detent pin don't ball out. Oh. Another slight aggravation. Anyway, the detent pin for that's going to go right in there like that. So what I'm going to do is, to make it fit just right, you can see there's a slot. The takedown pin had the same thing. There's a slot here, and it's got two little like indentations in it with that detent pin, the ends of it, right in there, and lock that into place. There's either, you know, open, closed. So what I'm going to do is we're going to CLP it real quick, get her all slicked up. Just put a little Rona CLP on her. And set that to the side. And we're just going to slip our pin in here with our slot now facing down. Normally it would face back. It would face to the back of the gun. Now I'm going to stick it in with it facing straight down. Set her in there like so. Take my, don't run off there, Tommy, come here. Take my detent pins, grab it with my pliers here, and drop that puppy right in that hole. Whoops, don't you run off there. See, it's trying to run off on me. There, drop that in there like that. There is the little tiny spring I was telling you about that holds that detent pin against the takedown pin and gives you that spring-loaded action. We'll just push that down in there like so. And there's a little matching kind of hole to go with it, it seems. And so what we're going to do, I'll push both of these down here at once, like so. Does that go back there like that? Let me see. No, maybe it doesn't. Hold on. Let me pull this all the way off here, because I think I got that wrong. And I don't want to make a mistake with this and bend that spring. Yep, there he goes. That spring goes in that little hole right, that little spot right there. It just spits up flat against it. Like so. Boom. There. Fits up flat against it. Just like it would against the end plate. That just fits up flat against the end plate the same way. So we'll take our screw and put it back in here now. Get her started by hand. Start her off. Let's make sure we got our pin wind up here. Make sure our takedown pin's in the right position here. Heard it click? There you go. Heard it click in? Had to rotate it and click it in. Now it's clicked in. There's your detent pin. Let's screw it up the rest of the way. Now we got her seated right. That's good enough for now. As they say, it's good enough for government work. Now, what you have here in front of you is almost a complete lower. And Rare Breed made this so much easier by moving that detent pin down here under the handle. That made life so much easier, because normally, like I said, in order to put this handle on, you have to, this is your bolt, your bumper spring, your bumper catch. Okay, this little pin right here, turn it around this way, Tommy. This pin right here, this pointy looking thing, right there, there it is. That pointy looking thing right there, that's your bolt retainer pin. Your buffer retainer. Okay, that holds your buffer in place in the tube. We're going to show you just how that works, just right here. So, what you do is, go ahead and take your buffer tube. I told you I'm going to stick every one of these, I'll stick the 3-point sling on it. Pretty straightforward and simple how this works, because they made it so much easier now. We'll just screw this on up in here. I need to turn around this way so y'all can see it screwing in. Because, take my back just a bit. Just a bit, there we go. Because what you're going to do, get out of the way, you're going to screw this up here, and remember I made a little indentation in it earlier. You're going to see why. Now, I'm going to press this down. And screw it on up to it. Keep pressing it down. And watch. Oh, I might have to open that up a little more. Well, it should lock right about there. Maybe I can... Nope, you don't want it to go any further. You don't want it to go any further than this opening right here. You never want it to go any further than that. Now I could cut that notch in there a little bit stronger, where that pin would lock right there. It would just go click, and the whole thing will lock in place. And I don't have it right now, but I think I'm going to pull that out and did that. But anyway, before we get to that point, we'll just show you how this works. I'll do that later. To tighten it up the rest of the way, you have a thing called a castle nut. It's this thing right here. Pull your end plate on up there and get it in place. Take your castle nut, tighten her up like that. And now you have your buttstock buffer tube installed. Your carbine, it's a carbine-length buttstock buffer tube, all in one piece. It's not adjustable, not on this particular gun. Would be cool, but it's not. It's going to be an actual fixed length carbine, which is kind of odd, but there it is. So anyway, to tighten this castle nut up, it's really easy. You got to have again the right tool. It takes a tool like this. Now you can use the old hooked spanner tool. It just kind of looks like one of these hooks right here, but it's just one hook, and you can reach around and turn it. But Wheeler makes really good AR tools. And you just put it on here like so, and you don't even have to put any real torque on it, just kind of snug it. And that's good enough. That's plenty good enough. Doubt it'll ever loosen up unless you're out there in some kind of battle conditions. I doubt it even now. But anyhow, so now, zoom back out. So now what you have is here's your buffer tube. Here's all your lower. Dropping the trigger, and this is why the drop-in trigger is so cool. You saw what that was. 2 screws, you know, make sure you got your firing selector in first, of course. But you got 2 screws. And there's your trigger groove. No other pins or springs to fool with, none of that stuff. Because let me tell you something, if anybody knows about AR-15, there's like 6 different components to the trigger group, including the pins and springs and sear. And just, I don't know. If you're just a purist and you want that, be my guest. With me, I'm going to drop in trigger me. You know, people are willing to pay for it. I'm going to give it to them. Anyway, so now we have almost a complete lower. And I suppose some people already know what's missing. And here it is. The good old buffer. And she just pops right on in here like so. And you just... And there it is. The complete trump lower. Fire control group. Bolt catch release. Mag release, firing selector, takedown pin, detent. Now, all I got to do now is wait for the Carbine-Length gas tube, and we can finish the upper. But for now, for most purposes, there is your Trump AR rare breed Crusader, the Trump Maga. And hopefully Delta Team Tactical will get me. Unless I can find a gas tube sitting on the shelf somewhere that's Carbine-Length real quick like. I don't know. I'll have to see. I might have to look around a little bit. There may be some people around here who have it. But as I said before, there is a difference, and there's a 2-inch difference in this. And I didn't even realize it when I picked it up. You know, that it is longer than the standard, you know, than the Carbine-Length. And I'm like, man. But when you pick them up, you know, right out of the box, you just like, unless you have one sitting right next to it to compare, you just assume you got the right one. No. So, stand by for the next parts. I'll post this up here just to get it going. I guess we could go ahead and put in the forward assist on the upper. We could do that, couldn't we? So let's take a little break and we'll get it ready for the forward assist magazine, the forward assist on the upper. Comment, like, and subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. Thank you for watching.